Hello, student, trainees, and interns. In the course of business immigration, we discuss those groups of student, trainees, and interns, foreign nationals in the United States, because, first of all, their visas often involve the component of employment, although it's not the main purpose of their stay in the United States. And also because students and often trainees and interns are a very big source of workers that later on join the American workforce for a certain amount of time or permanently, depends. So let's go and have a look about these groups. We will try to discuss primarily what they all have in common and how as a group, we can understand what is going on in those visas. In general, visas for foreign national to attend school and acquire professional skills mean that these visas are intended for the foreign national to come here primarily and not in order to benefit a U.S. employer. There is always an expectation that there'll be some exchange, cultural exchange that may contribute to, of course, to the American workforce or to the American employers, but generally this is hello. Let's talk a little bit about student, trainees, and intern. We are in a course of business immigration. If you ask yourself why are we talking about these people, because those not really typical employment scenarios or business scenario. The reason is because most of these visas have a component that includes employment or on-the-job training, and because those individual in those visa categories often proceed after they complete those programs um, to be employed in the United States temporarily, sometime even permanently. So it's important for us to look at these and see what they have in common and how they operate in the bigger context of business immigration. Student, trainees, and intern. The visas for those group, which are several, you saw them, F1, M1, J1, H3, um, are all intended to allow foreign national come here to this country to gain skills and education, and in general, with the expectation that they will take that information back to their home country and use it over there. So you will see in the conditions of some of those visas that the skills that are imparted on the foreign national must be skills that they can use overseas. In some situations, like in the H3, it has to be skills that they cannot obtain in their home country, but only here. And we will see some strings that comes with those visas that try to assure that this is indeed what's going to happen. In all of these visas, there is a plan, either an academic plan or a training plan that the person and the company that trains them must follow in order to be in compliance with the terms of the visa. This is very important. The training plan is um, a roadmap, and it explains in uh, quite a bit of detail what is to be taught, what is the training about, and how it will benefit the trainee, as well as the mutual obligations um, of both parties. One, the host company need to provide the training and not abuse the person, and the person must be devoting their time to the program in order to succeed in it. Um, the admissions in some of these visas, other than the H3, is for DS. We mentioned it briefly. Duration of status mean that it is subject to what is actually happening. So, and for as long as the person is engaged in the activity that is allowed under their visa, they can remain here even for a relatively long period of time without the needing to stay or extend their visa or stay. Um, there's also another important element in these visas, most of them, is the use of the CVIS system, which is a system that is controlled by ICE, the Immigration and Customs Enforcement, and and has records of all students and exchange visitors in the United States, and schools and sponsor organizations use the system in order to keep compliance, keep report about their foreign nationals under their organizations, and to make sure that everybody is in compliance. So if a student is supposed to study full time and they're not going to show up to school for a couple of days, there will be a report from CVIS in the system, and ICE may come and inquire. So it's a very important element of these visas that require strict compliance. It also has fees. When you apply for the visa, you have to pay for a CVIS fee. Um, Also, as we said, this group of students and trainees and interns are often the big source of H-1B applicants in this country. Meaning, once they finish, U.S. employers petition for them in order to employ them if they find the persons are helpful to them or are good in what they do, or they have other specific skills that are required in the workforce here. Strings attached. This is one of the important characteristics of those visas. They come to assure that the visas really are used for the purpose they intended to, meaning to train people and educate them so they can go back to their home country um, after they complete it. So we will see that the 2 years home residency requirement that is attached to the J1 is probably the most severe of those strings. In certain situations where the 2 years residency requirement attaches, and those situations are several. One of them is when the government of the United States or of the home country is sponsoring the program and paying for the person's education or training, or a situation when the Department of State determined that there is a need in that particular area of the training or education in the home country. In this kind of situation, the person must go home for 2 years before they can get H-1B or L-1 visa or become a permanent resident. And this is pretty strict because you cannot become a permanent resident even if you marry a U.S. citizen for whatever reason, unless you can show circumstances that warrants a waiver. And this rise up almost to the level of asylum or extreme hardship. And in many cases, those waivers are not given liberally. They are hard to get, and no one should count on the fact that they were going to get them. The H3, if a person complete a whole program of H3 for 2 years, they cannot get H1B for 6 months. Again, that's the purpose of this measure, is to avoid use of the H3 skills here, because one of the terms of the H3 is that the training is not existent in the home country. So supposedly the person can benefit their home country when they go back with those skills. Full-time CPT, a person who completes the whole allotted CPT in full-time might be precluded from OPT. So again, they want to avoid a situation where someone get repeated training when they don't really need it. M1 experience, as we can see, cannot be used towards H1B. So that's another string that attached in this context. Important to remember that at least the F1 has important provisions with regard to H1B that are intended to make the transition for those students who have a job offer and an employer who petition for them for H1B um, to remain in the country without causing undue interruption to the employer and to the foreign national. And the cap gap provisions enables to bridge the time gap between the time a person graduates, usually in May, and the time the visa can start, usually in October, because the visa, as we're going to see, is tied to the government fiscal year that starts in October. So those 5 months used to be a big problem, but now there are provisions that mitigate the difficulty somewhat. STEM extension, we mentioned in the material, allow for certain graduates to extend their stay in OPT for 2 more years beyond the 1 year that everybody is eligible to. So a total of 3 years um, to pursue training. After the first year, they need to have a training plan that the employer keeps in their file, and you have in the materials the access to this relatively recent rule. Just about the numbers, when we're talking about student and trainees and intern, how many are there? So foreign students in the United States are, according in 2014-15, which is the most recent information, there are almost 1 million foreign students in this country, which is a significant amount. It has quite a bit of an effect on U.S. institution of higher education and on the workforce once some of these individuals seek further training or employment.